What does it take for women to succeed in a male-dominated culture? And how can women deal with all of the challenges they face in progressing their career? And how is innovative technology being used to give equal financial opportunity to everyone? Well, those are the topics on today's The Packard Network Live. And I'm very pleased to introduce Brenda Chimfwembe Bwalya, who is with me live from Lusaka, Zambia. And Brenda, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Brett. Lovely to be here and great to be having this discussion with you. Thank you.
That's great. Brenda is the country director for SPIN Zambia. And the mission of Brenda and her company is to provide everyone equal financial opportunities through innovative technology. And there's nobody more qualified. I told Brenda when she was hired into this company, we spoke the other day that they made a great hire because her background of more than 2 decades of financial services background at multinational companies in specializing in digital banking and in classic banking, such as trade, transaction banking, financial institutions, credit analysis, you name it, Brenda's done it. We had the opportunity to work together during my time in that part of the world. And Brenda's business was always meticulously well run. And so she's a terrific candidate to have on this program to talk about financial inclusion and also how all of us can work together, men included, to make this a better world of opportunity for women. And for women out there, you're going to hear some great inspirational tips from our conversation in the next 20 to 30 minutes. So, and lastly, Brenda's very proud of this, and I'm very proud of her as well, that she has an MBA from the Fuqua School of Business at Duke University. So, and there's a lot of other credentials that you can look it up on LinkedIn. It'll take a while to read them all, but she's very qualified to speak with us about these topics today. So Brenda, it's really great to have you. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Brett. I'm really great. I'm touching base with you, and you touched about the fact that you and I worked together in Zambia, and I have so many good memories of that. And I'm sure you miss home because Zambia was home for you. And I'm really honored for you to, invite me to come on your show, the Brett Packard Network, and to talk about, the different aspects from working as a woman in this industry, financial inclusion, and hopefully today you and I can inspire someone to, to make the next move or about a decision they're trying to work. And, and as a woman, there could be somebody else as well who's wanting to make that move, but they don't know how to. So, so let's get going.
Yeah, well, let's definitely do this. Why don't we kind of kick this off a little bit? If you could maybe just give like a 2-minute summary of your adult life, from education onward, because you're, again, I kind of gave an overview, but it didn't really do all of the great things that you've achieved justice. So maybe you could just spend a couple minutes talking about your background and experience.
Okay. So Brenda I was born in Lusaka and raised in Lusaka and live in Lusaka and work here. I most of my adult life in terms of education has been here in Lusaka right until when I finished secondary school. And I had the chance to go into the UK to do my first degree, which was basically double major computer science and management. And then during my last year of university, I made a decision to come home. And one of the great things that inspired me coming back home to Lusaka was that I felt Africa, as it's called now, was the next frontier. And to really come back home, make a difference, and work in whatever industry I could get in would satisfy me, if I can use that word. So I was lucky enough, as I was doing my final exams, to have an interview with Standard Chartered, and they were bringing, they had a program for graduate recruitments, and one country was Zambia. So went for the interviews, did the test, and I got my first job. So like 3 months even before I graduated. So my dad was really excited, and for him it was like one less problem. I don't have to help you job hunt. So finished my exams, waited for my graduation, and packed up, and I came back to Zambia. And 3 days later, I was in my first job. And through Standard Chartered, I mean, that's when I started really getting exposed to, customer service, technology, and words such as cash management were now coming up. You know what I mean? How to use different services through technology, through service centers, in terms of managing corporate businesses from a treasury perspective, from a payment perspective. And then the element of trade came in. So the buzzword was transaction banking, you know what I mean? And the bank that could actually do that from end to end, satisfied the customer as opposed to just the normal business. So my life as Standard Chartered evolved from being a graduate recruit trainee. I was amongst the first people who started cash management in Zambia. We grew the business, worked as a relationship manager, and I had worked outside Zambia. I had an attachment in Uganda, took a lot of learnings, came back. And then as my career progressed, I worked for Standard Chartered for 10 years. I got an amazing opportunity at Barclays and became the head of cash management, and later combined to head of cash and trade, and then went into relationship management, looking after financial institutions. And during that time, there was all this buzzword of mobile money, mobile money. This is what's happening in Kenya. And then Airtel Money and MTN Money came up. And, being the banker, the conservative banker, it was like, what is this mobile money? It can't work. They're coming to steal our money. You know what I mean? And guess what? I ended up in running one of the, the mobile money companies here called Airtel Money. So I jumped ship from straight, clear-cut banking profession and went into mobile money. And Brett, it was just basically jumping into a frying pan. Because mobile money, as you know about it, it's all based on technology. It's your branchless banking and focused on the mass market, you know what I mean? And it was so new here in Zambia. Technology and upkeep, you had to build trust amongst the people to use the service. We had a stable financial industry, as you know, very few collapsed banks, I think, in the entire history that I worked in. I think it was just one bank, you know what I mean? So you were battling against a very stable financial industry and trying to convince people to start using mobile money. And it was such a tough learning curve, if I can use that word, you know what I mean? But it was one of those industries where, you change decisions and make decisions right there and then. You've got the technology, you've got the data, and you have to read their data to enable you to make those changes. And as I worked there, I got the opportunity to also then work into companies on a regional level, working for Atlas Mara as a regional head of cash management, working in 6 countries and overseeing and starting the business. And then I worked for a company called Wari, which is an MTO, money transfer operator. Went in with basically looking after the Africa business and then restructured. Then I came in as deputy director for Southern Africa. So it was a whole total different money transfer at a small scale compared to banks where we're doing it at a large scale. So you begin to marry both your mobile money business and the money transfer business, because then those had a specific target market, and especially when it came to mass market, and the fact that how you drove the business, you played the volume game, small margins, but you played the volume game. So that was also a good learning curve. And I think when I look at myself now, I believe I'm an all-rounder when it comes to the financial services industry. From your mainstream banking, you talk about mobile money, you talk about money transfer business. And then I got a wonderful opportunity to work with Spen here in Zambia as the country head, and which is what I'm doing right now. And I guess the difference between Spen and any other, let's say, wallet is the fact that, one, we're not telco-led, like MTN or Airtel Money, who are led by telecoms communication. We have a partnership with the bank. So it's a non-telco-led mobile money wallet, but also trying to push financial inclusion in the Zambian market. And one of the key things that we see in the vision is how to empower people to make financial decisions, to make to access products, not only just from owning a wallet, from loans, from insurance services. different things. And one of the greatest things I think we're doing right now and working with an NGO is looking at how do we bring, the mass market, the unbanked into the formal sector, where they're able to pay for social security, pay for taxes, pay for medical insurance. So it begins to evolve to a whole different level when you talk about financial inclusion in the sector. So it's been an amazing journey and fulfillment journey, and learning a lot of skill sets. And you make your mistakes, you learn from your mistakes, and you move on. Yes.
And you grow, and you do something. The analogy I use a lot, and you've just described that you've done that. You don't skate using a hockey analogy where the puck is. You skate where it's going, and that's what you did, because clearly. And I think the world's really starting to see this now around the world with COVID, especially. It accelerated this by a decade plus in most parts of the world, that technology and FinTech is definitely where the puck is going. And, it was a bold move for you to leave traditional banking and go into this sector. But boy, I tell you, it was definitely the right move. Because that's where the economy is. And now you're on the cutting edge. As usual, Brenda, you're leading the pack. So I think that's great. It doesn't surprise me. One of the smartest women that I know. Yeah. Go ahead. Please go ahead.
No, thank you. Yeah. I was saying that when we started mobile money in 2009 going into 2013, the platforms we're using were inbuilt, company built, internally built. You're taking it to market, you tweak it and everything. And now I'm working for a company that's using some of the latest technology, and we're talking about blockchain. Blockchain is now a whole different evolution when it comes to providing financial services. And when you talk about the scalability, and that's what you find. So moving with the times and the trends, and you have to read a lot. How are the markets changing? How is the environment changing? Not only locally, but also at a regional level, international level. And you take those learnings and you try and adopt them and see how you best marry them into your local market. Yes. Yeah.
And for the viewers, many of which actually everybody, I'm sure, watching this right now, thousands of people understand what Bitcoin is, right? They know a lot more about it than I do even. But let's talk could you just describe in your own words blockchain? Let's not talk about Bitcoin, but let's talk about blockchain and why specifically, Brenda, why it's secure. Why should people trust blockchain technology?
Yeah, I think when you look about security, one of the key things that we look at wallets is when you've got a target segment that use products based on trust. The first thing that they ask you, like this morning, I was in one of the largest markets called Soweto here, and we have about 35 marketeers that are operating in that market, even before you count the consumers. And these women, you're walking around branded, and I was stopped by a group of women. What is this about? You know what I mean? And the first thing they ask you is, how safe is it? If I leave my money overnight, will I find my money in the morning? So when you talk about using technology in offering financial services, and that's where blockchain comes in terms of the security protocols that are being used to build the product. And then the second thing we looked about is scalability. How many transactions can we process in a day when we're growing in markets? And we've grown and entered 3 markets in Africa, looking at Tanzania, Rwanda, and Zambia. And blockchain technology gives you the ability to process up to 25 million transactions in a day. So scalability becomes key. And then if you look at these marketeers, and if I walked in, and one of the reasons we walked in this morning and what we wanted to understand about the environment is, how do you digitize such an environment? How do you take a marketeer from accepting cash to accepting payments on a mobile money? Because then they're basically a small merchant, you know what I mean? But the key question they always ask you is not even about how do I access it? How do I do this? It's, when I leave my money there, will I find it? So, and that's what blockchain does. And that's one of the key things I like about it, is the safety protocols, the aspect about it, and what it builds in there in terms of providing safety. And that's what you take to the mass market segment. When you talk about it, it's safety. And you take them through the safety protocols, how it works, how they access their money, and why it's safe in a manner that they understand it. And And one of the key things when I talked about earlier is the fact that we're looking at ways where we can take the informal sector into the formal sector. It means that you need the capacity and the scalability as transactions progress. And for example, is like the Lusaka City Council. I mean, they run all these markets in Lusaka. There are about almost 60 markets. On a daily basis, if you look at the number of marketeers, we've got about almost 183,000 marketeers operating, selling goods and services in the markets. So is your system and the technology using able to process 300, 500 transactions in a space of a time without it being clogged? I mean, we've seen sales happening on the internet where you're trying to buy something because it's a beautiful sale and you're all there and everything just crashes down. You know what I mean? That's what blockchain technology provides to us, in the sense that as the transaction volumes are growing, we're still stable and we're able to have that capacity. So safety, capacity are the two key things that you find in the blockchain technology. And that's what the marketeers want. And the first thing is, when they believe it's safe, or they go out and sell the product for you. You don't even have to sell it. They will sell it for you.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. It just becomes mainstream part of the DNA, right? Once you get over that
hump.
Yes,
it does.
So let's talk for a bit about the unbanked population. You can talk about this through Spin's lens. So there's 1.7 billion people. Is that about right? Worldwide that are unbanked. They don't have access to financial services.
Yes.
Is that about right?
They don't have financial services. About right. And Zambia's got a population of about 18 million people. And you find, I think maybe now the numbers are much better. But previously, I know, Brett, you were in the market with us. It was less than 10% of people who had bank accounts when you looked at it. And I think when you look at the lens from a banker, one of the things that we shied about was we didn't want these people to clog our branch networks. You know what I mean? So we were very territorial about the segments we wanted to service. And if you recall, mass market wasn't one of them. So the mass market tended to be ignored and left out of this whole provision of financial services sector.
Well, many
that
of
is
the
where
people,
technology such as
you're right. You know, farmers that are in any kind of farmer in remote
farmers,
parts of Zambia, they can't. There's not a road to get to a branch anyway, right? So their inability to access basic banking is very difficult, right?
And I think one of the
so you have a solution for them, right?
Yes, we do. And I think one of the other reasons, as well as banks shy away from that, is the cost of brick and mortar, of building a branch, brick and mortar branch for people to access. Whereas for us, it's not about the actual branch network. Our backbone is based on a good, solid agent network that we build out and which grows across the country to provide what we call the basic services of depositing, which is cashing in and withdrawing and cashing out. And then in that environment that we've built, what we've tried to do is provide free services for anything that you're doing within your app. You know what I mean? Whether it's buying your airtime, making P2P transfers, which is your person-to-person transfers, and then as well as, paying for bills and merchant services. So what we're also trying to do is, how affordable is it for the common man to use a financial service product? And that's why you find that I've got workers, my maid and my gardener at home, who shy away and refuse a main bank account because of the cost. Because even a minimum cost of 40 kwacha for someone like them, it's quite high. So I've actually put them onto our Spend wallet, because I know as they're transacting within the environment, everything for them is cost-free. But one of the things that we went out, as I said this morning, was to not just look at the normal transactions, but looking about digitizing environments. When you go into the African markets, which is common across Africa, is everything is cash. Cash is king. You know what I mean? So looking at it today was, how do you take that cash from exchanging in hands and then taking that whole marketplace and digitizing it from the time that the small scale farmers come into the market, are offloading their goods, selling to the marketeers, who are then sending to the end consumer. So that change in goods and cash, how do you then digitize the exchange of cash into, a digital form. And in the times of COVID as well, it becomes safer. So I guess the vision is, what can we do to empower everybody? And that's one of the key things that we look about. It's empowerment. How can I empower someone who can have a wallet, have a bank account that is affordable, but do a lot more in that? And some of the key things that we've done, if you go into Rwanda, where we've gone live with loans, you know what I mean? People who are in our target market are now able to access loans through the Spend wallet. We're going to roll out in Zambia. We're going to roll out in Tanzania, because when you look at the market and the mass market, when they go into the banks, mainstream banks, that credit process, they don't meet any of the criteria. You know what I mean? They transact on a daily basis in terms of withdrawing and cashing. So whereas our technology from that perspective is able to create a risk profile, and you're able to then give out loans. So it's not just even about having the wallet, but what other value added services can you add to that wallet that they would normally not be able to get if they walked into a mainstream bank. So those are some of the things that we're looking at, and the vision and the mission and things that we're passionate about when we wake up every day to go to the office and drive it.
I think that's great. That's a great, it's an inspirational vision to have for a very important segment of economies everywhere worldwide. And so let me just get this straight. So basically, whether somebody has access to financial services or not, there's a lot that don't, a lot that do. But everybody has a mobile phone, right? So everybody has everybody has the platform already today where they can access your wallet, correct?
Yes.
And then how easy is it or difficult is it to open an account with Spin? Is it fairly easy for these people to do this?
No, it's fairly easy. One, we don't differentiate by network. So for example, in Zambia, we have 3 service providers. There's MTN, there's Airtel, and there's Zamtel. For as long as you have a SIM card that's active and working, you can actually use the service. Whereas with our competitors, you're locked into the network. So I met marketeers today who were saying, I'm on MTN, I'm on Airtel. I said, you can use the Spend product. And they're like, really? You know what I mean? So that distinction means that it's available for everybody. It's not network locked. So anyone that has a SIM card that is valid can have access to the product.
So you make it really easy, make it easy like Apple does when you get the new phone in the box. It's so easy, you know how to unpack it and turn it on, right? It's a very simple. So then what's required? So walk us through what's required then after, okay, so I've got the service, any network, for any of the 3 network providers. So how do I open an account?
So we've got 2 ways where you can open an account. One, you can download an app if you've got a smartphone. And so you can, whether it's Android or iOS in terms of smart iPhone, you download the app. The second access point that you can utilize is USSD, where you dial a code. So like in Zambia, you dial *220# and the menu comes up for you. So meaning that even if you're using a non-smartphone and what we call feature phones, which are basic, they don't run on data, but the SIM card is working. So a customer can now download the app. And then if you download the app, you can actually do a self-service in terms of opening an account. Basic KYC, know your customer documentation is required. Basically, you put in your details, you take a photo of your ID, and you basically take a selfie, next to your ID, and you submit the documentation. And within 5 minutes, your account is what we call validated. It's open. Now, if you don't have a smartphone and you're using a feature phone, we have agents that have an agent app, and then your nearest agent, Spend agent, is able to take your documentation and help you open the account and have it validated, as we say, and your account is open and you're good to go. So either you do it yourself or you can actually go to an agent who's able to help you. So once your account is up and open and running, and we have a full back-end team that basically ensures that, obviously from a regulatory perspective, all the accounts that have been opened, correct documentation is being submitted. But for a basic account and under the central bank guidelines, you just need your NRC or your passport or your driving license and yourself, and the account is opened.
Yeah. How easy is
as
that?
simple as
And
that,
then
yeah.
how many
Yeah.
of these agents do you have around the country right now, currently?
So we have a partnership first with Kazang, which is an agent aggregator, and they have in excess of 8,000 agents spread across the country. So already that gives us a very good network and backbone.
Absolutely.
And then we are also growing our own agent network in terms of signing up agents individually outside these aggregator partnerships that we have. And we've got about 1,800 agents. So you're basically talking about an agent network that's above 10,000 across the country, whether you go to a Kazang agent or you go to a normal spend agent. So in our service, Brett, the key thing is your agent network is your backbone, because that's where your customers are able to deposit and withdraw money as you would in any ATM or bank transaction. So the next step to providing access to accounts for customers is we're integrating in our national switch, the national financial switch, which will basically give customers access to other agent aggregators that are on the switch, or able to transfer money in terms of bringing interoperability. So you're able to do transactions between bank accounts and other wallets.
Oh, okay.
So our value add and environment is, So as we said, once your account is open, immediately the agent can allow you to actually deposit money and you're good to go to start transacting. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
So the whole process should take you maximum 15 minutes end to end. And obviously the agent helping you and training you and to use the service. So what we do is we invest in time in training our agents, because they're so like our marketing piece and our mouthpiece when it comes to helping customers. Yes. So that's key in terms of training your agent network. Yes.
Yeah, great. Thank you for explaining that. I think that's a crystal clear explanation of how SPIN under Brenda's leadership in Zambia is helping so many people have access to financial services that before they could not get, especially so easily. So I think that's a great proposition, that you have a terrific vision and what an impact on the world you're making and are going to make. Great job, Brenda, to you. And to SPIN as well. My hat goes off.
Thank you.
Let's shift the subject really quick. Next 8 minutes or so that we have time. I want to talk about a very important subject. I've had a lot of women on this program, and I'd like to talk about, from your perspective, what should women look at? Okay, what should they work on? How should they go about ensuring they get a seat at the table? Okay, including the MD, including the executive team of large. You've worked for very large multinational banks, right? You've dealt with very large, huge clients, right? You handled some of our largest clients back at the time that you and I worked together. What should women, from your perspective, because you've been able to, it hasn't gotten in your way, right? And you've been able to just, from your very first job on upwards, you've been able, in a male-dominated corporate environment, you've been able to excel. How do you do that?
I think there are two aspects to this that we can quickly talk about. It is one, the organizational environment and how it supports women to grow. And then culture does come to play within, the support system that you have in your back end. I mean, when I started banking in the mid 1990s, it was still very male dominated environment. And what I tended to find is a lot of women, as you rightly put it, shy away from taking a seat at the table. And especially a lot of it is affected by the organizational environment and how they support women. I mean, when I joined Barclays, one of the key things I found with my line manager, the corporate banking director, was that I was the only woman running, a business that was a revenue generating business, and 3-4 of my other colleagues were all male. So when we sat as head of units in corporate banking at that table, I was the only woman. and the rest
Mhm.
were male. But he created an environment, and his name is Charles Carey. He created an environment that enabled me to excel. And why do I say that is when I was joining Barclays, my son was 9 months old. I had another child under the age of 4. She was about three and a half. So I had two children under, the age of 5. And you know what that is. One was coming out of the terrible twos. One was just about to turn a year old. And having to, balance my work and young children and my home life meant that I had to be strategic about how I worked. We were in at 8 o'clock, you know what I mean? But Brett,
Mhm.
by 5:30, I was out of that office. So your organizational skills also come into play. I had a very supportive line manager. Charles supported me any which way. I mean, and especially when you have children under the age of 5, they have all these little illnesses, colds, and everything. I was never, the environment never made me feel like I would fail in any way if I didn't come to work. But what I also began to understand was that my other male colleagues, my level at the same level,
Your
the other
peers. Yep.
unit health,
Mhm.
through
Mm.
Charles's guidance and the way he handled it, began to support me. I mean, there were times, Brett, when we were working with you, would have tight deadlines, reports, and everything, and we would be in the office as late as 7, 8 o'clock in the evening. But what I found was they had a lot of compassion for me, where they'll turn around and they used to call me Mrs. T. And they say, Mrs. T, it's 7 o'clock. You need to go home. And I'd say, we haven't finished. And they say, no, 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 no. We've got this. Don't worry about it. You know what I mean? Don't panic. We'll get it done
Mm.
in the morning and we'll do a review. So from my line manager, the organization, from my colleagues at the same level, I had that support system. So your work support system and the culture of the organization plays a key role in pushing up women up the ladder. And Barclays also had a deliberate environment where we had the Women in Development program, if you remember that,
Mhm.
where the future leaders and specifically identifying women leaders were identified, taken through training programs. In essence, given sort of like that push to get a seat at the table, you know what I mean? You've got
Mhm.
it, you've got all the skill sets, you know what I mean? So you are now in the limelight. We were given specific projects that we had to deliver, and we're all women in leadership. So that cultural side of the organization and the structure helps as well. And it helped me. Then on the home front, as I said, started my first head of unit job, child that was 9 months, daughter that was about 3 months. My family support system helped. And when your family support system is helping you, it basically works together in collaboration with the organization support system. So when I needed to
Mhm.
travel, I would just call mom, I need to do this, the kids, you know what I mean? And mom would run to it. I'd call my brother. And when I was working for Wari, there were times when I'd be living in Mozambique for like a month to 2 months concurrently. And I'll just
Mm.
pick up the phone and call my brother and say, Ralph, I need to leave. Michael needs to get to school. Can you do this? And he'll just tell me, sister, I've got this. You know what I mean? Go and work. So those two
Mm.
types of support systems help, but it has to also be a way that you want to rise. You want to have that seat at the table. And if
Mm.
women have read the book Lean In, it talks about some of these things where when I was reading the Lean In book, I had my aha moment. So you think, yeah, that's me. When I'm applying for a job, I want to see if I can get 100% of the skill sets. But in actual fact, 60% is still good. You know what I mean?
Mm.
It's a learning
Mhm.
curve. And a lot of women, we shy away from applying for jobs because we think, I don't have those skill sets, without knowing whether if I try it, I can get it. So some of the, I think, some of the jobs I've gone after, it's a case of, okay, I can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The other 5, I'll wing it, I'll get there.
Mhm.
So
Right.
taking risks, men take a lot of risks. As
Mhm.
women, we want to be comfortable, safe, and especially where when you have children. But I've taken risks that I look back and think, Brenda, wow, how the hell did you get out of that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you did.
So I think,
You did.
yes,
You not only got out of it, you flourished.
yes,
Mm.
I did. I did.
Yeah.
And the current environment that I work in as well at Spen has been wonderful. You know what I mean? you're given the space and the table where you flourish. You know what I mean? And it's an environment where I don't have to go to someone to speak to the CEO. I just send Jens a message and say, Jens, are you free? Can we talk? And even before I say anything, he rings the phone and we chat. I've got these issues. Are you okay, Brenda? You know what I mean? Whereas in certain organizations, there's a layer of people you speak to before you get to CEO. But this is a guy who's available. And my direct line boss is the chief operating officer based in London. And there are times when I call him at odd hours and there's availability and everything. And currently, by the way, I'm the only woman country manager. The other three guys are male. So it's still a male environment. But I would like to urge my fellow sisters to take the risk, to take up the challenge in different roles. You don't have to know everything 100%. No one knows everything 100%. It's a learning curve. But if you're willing to learn and take the feedback, both positive and negative, in terms of how you grow, you will rise. But it's about you as an individual. Am I willing to take the risk? Am I willing to take the challenge? And not having to know everything 100%. It makes a total difference.
Yeah, get moving, keep moving. And if you get knocked down, just keep moving. And you know, waiting to become a perfectionist. What I loved about what you just said, okay, you've just inspired me once again, Brenda. You know, waiting to become a perfectionist, you're going to be waiting forever, and you'll never get anything done.
Yes.
Right? That's right. So it's yeah. I mean, it might be good to want to be perfect, right? But if you live your life that way, you'll never enjoy life, right?
No, yeah. And I get a lot of women who have worked in different organizations and even in the current one where they say you're bold. I said, it's not being about being bold, but it's about knowing I have a seat at the table and it's my right for seat. And I am here because I'm not sure. So whatever seat, look at it and sit upright and say, I'm here and I'm not going anywhere.
That's right. And, you know,
and take it
Brenda,
by the reins. Yes.
It's and you've given just a couple of examples in this short discussion that we've had today about, you know, at Barclays, where you were the only woman running a line of business, and now you're the only woman country manager. And, you know, this doesn't happen by luck, right? It's because you have that attitude about that seat at the table is yours and you're going to get it. And you're going to do what it takes to get it. And you're not going to wait around on yourself to be perfect and qualified. And it's okay to make a mistake. You know, that's another way of saying what you're saying. And you've made mistakes. I've made mistakes. And I can tell you for everybody watching out there, men make just as many mistakes as women and vice versa. Okay. There's not, so it's really how you approach it. So I like your advice. Don't be bold, just find the seat and get it because it belongs to you. And I think that's a very, maybe not the most common way of describing it, but I think this way is much more effective than just saying be bold, because I think be bold, it just kind of, you know, seems to be just the buzzword, right? And so I think I like your approach, much more of an attitude towards it. So I think that's great. That's great, Brenda. Brenda, any final advice for the young women out there that are watching this, that they've been thinking about doing something, but they haven't done it yet? Hello, Brenda. Can you hear me? I think we have a little bit of a technical glitch. At any rate, we're running low on time. Brenda, I'd like to thank you for for appearing on the Packard Network today. It's wonderful to have you here, and I look forward to having you back again in the very near future. So thanks very much to all of you for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.